All right, so today we are going to cover demonstrative adjectives and pronouns. Demonstrative oftentimes sounds like a scary word or a word that you are unfamiliar with. Truth of the matter is we have demonstratives in English. You use them often. You've just never, more than likely, you've never stopped and called them demonstratives and talked about them because they just happen, okay? So, I guess our first item of business would be to discover what exactly a demonstrative is. It tells you that it indicates where something is. That is the most basic description. It tells you where something is. Like on Zach's desk, I like, fill in the blank, book. I like, I like, and I like that one way over there. In English, we say this book, that book. In Spanish, they have one more degree. They have something that's close to the speaker, something that's not as close to the speaker, and something that's far away. This and that are demonstratives in English. In Spanish, as I just said, they demonstrate whether something is close to, not as close, or far away. So they have 3 different degrees according to the speaker. All right, you're going to need to draw a chart for me. In your chart, you're going to need to have basically 3 boxes, 3 columns. Why that didn't show up for you guys, I don't know. Let's see here. Give me a second. Now I'm good to go. What was all that ruckus back there? Okay, so you're going to need your chart to have a close column, a not close, and a far away. Then you're going to need singular and plural. Is that making sense to you? No, it doesn't make sense to you. Okay, keep working and see if it... Do it? Because I just erased that line because I don't know why I drew it. So, all right, so this is going to look like a lot of words, but they're very, very similar because we're going to have masculine and we're going to have feminine. That's what M and F are standing for. So there's going to be a singular masculine and a singular feminine. There's going to be a plural masculine and a plural feminine. Whenever you look at them, they are very similar. So if you can memorize the masculine singular, you should be doing pretty well because then you just have to manipulate them a little bit to make them plural and feminine. So let's just get right to it. The first chart that we're going to look at are the singular ones. These are the ones that you would use if you're just talking about one book. Este libro. This book. If what you're trying to talk about happens to be a calculator, the word calculator in Spanish is feminine. So you would have to use the feminine form, which would be esta calculadora. If the item that I'm talking about is not right here next to me, and I want to say that one or that calculator, it's not close to me, I would use esa. In English, that's pretty much what we have, this and that. But in Spanish, they have one more degree. They have one that's for far away from the speaker. And that would be aquel, which is a totally different looking word to you probably. And aquella for the feminine. If you can memorize este, ese, and aquel, you will be doing well. Because after that, you just have to change este to esta, ese to esa, and aquel to aquella. Not bad. What if you're not just talking about one book? Not just this book, but what's that English word? These books, right. Then we're going to need the plural ones, and here's what they look like. Notice there's not a whole lot of difference from este down to estos. We did have to change the E to an O. And of course, to make something plural, we put a S on it. Alejandro, you paying attention? I appreciate your honesty. Peyton, put your chair down, please, and take some notes. With a pencil and paper. Take notes. That way you're engaged. You may not need to look at your notes all that often, but just the simple act of writing it down will help. Okay, so these are adjectives. They are describing the location of something. This, that over there. We do not always have to use our nouns with them. After I've already talked about a book, I really like this book. I start to replace it with something. What part of speech do we use to replace nouns? Come on, let's... A pronoun. And these guys can transition into pronouns very easily. Look at them. Look at how similar they are. They are the exact same word from este to este. They just get accents. Now, why would you use the one without an accent versus the one with an accent? Well, if you look on there, we have the title adjectives and we have the title pronouns. An adjective does what? Describes a what? So a noun has to be there, right? But a pronoun does what? Replaces a noun. So if you don't want to say this book, like you would with an adjective, you would say this one in English. Exact same words, este versus este, you just use the accent to show that it's a pronoun, that the noun's not going to be used. And you're going to do both of these when we practice. Adjectives and pronouns. Adjectives occupy or not occupy. They modify or they're with a noun. Pronouns will replace the noun.
When we're using the star.
Okay, there are some words that look exactly the same. You're going to use, what do you think, Seth? How do you tell the difference between words in English that have the same spelling but different meanings?
You don't.
Yeah, you do. What do you look at? You look around it, which is called? Context clues. Yeah.
Is there an accent over the E on the second one?
Yeah, the one that I erased over? Yep. Right here?
Yeah.
There you go. Or the one that I wrote over. No, I erased for you. Okay, do the math. How many different words are up there that are in Spanish that you need to know? Okay, 2 answers that are correct. 24 different words in all of these different boxes. 24 is actually down to how many, Zach? What did you say? How many words? 3. Because all they are just different variations of one another. When you go from masculine to feminine, That's going from, a lot of times, an O to an A or an A to an A. When you go down to plural, you add S's. Sometimes you have to change a vowel, like an A to an O. But essentially, you have the exact same words. You're just manipulating them. So, lesson be told, you need to memorize your este, ese, and aquel. Repítame, este, ese, aquel. Those are your three that you've got to know. That's why in your video we had that silly, he was going, esta pelota, o aquella pelota. Because he was trying to get that already going in your mind of this, that, and that over there.
Wait, so do the pronouns just, they only stand for one?
No, it could be these. Like you could use estos for these, those, and those over there.
Don't not close and far away mean the same thing?
Yes, but they have three different. In English, we just have this and that. Close to me, not close to me. In Spanish, they have the third degree, which a lot of times aquel is not as commonly used.
Wait, so the
Este and ese.
Because if
the
it's
bottom
far
ones
away.
mean the exact same thing as the top ones?
Yes, they mean the exact same things. It's just that this is not just this, it's this one. Because I'm taking out my noun. This book, este libro versus este, this one. Once you've already established what you're talking about, there would have to be context around it for you to know what I'm talking about if I start replacing things. Just like in English, we don't always say our nouns all the time. We like to shorten up our sentences. And once I've already talked about, oh my gosh, I read the book, the best book ever last night. This one is all about da-da-da-da-da. We don't say this book. You can, but whenever you need to describe its location, which would be a little bit of a different context than what my example was. Okay? All right. I believe we need to talk about the location that they go. So, two more slides here. Demonstrative adjectives appear before the noun. So just jot that down. Before the noun, agree in gender and number. That's not rocket science. That's the chart. What you just wrote down. That, there's a masculine, a feminine, a singular, and a plural. On these three example sentences, we have all the different locations being used. This ring, close to me. I'm looking at it right here in a shop. Somebody else says, or you asked, how much does this ring cost? Somebody over across the counter is looking at it. It's not right next to them, so they say that ring. And then we have the final one, that ring over there. So if I was shopping, Jacob's working at a jewelry store. Sorry, Jacob, not a real probably choice position. But I say, oh, I really like this ring, Jacob. And I say, how much does this ring cost? Jacob says, that ring. That ring costs $2. And I'm like, oh, that's really expensive. And then he says, well, that ring over there costs $5. When I talked about, I say this ring. He's talking about the ring that I'm still possessing, and it's not close to him. He says that ring. And then he points to one across the store, and he uses aquel, which is aquel anillo. What?
If you ask me how much that ring costs, wouldn't I just say like $20?
Most of the time we try and speak in complete sentences. Although, yes, you could just answer with the information, but you need to know how to respond appropriately. All right, let's talk about the pronouns. Where do you think the pronouns go? They go in the same place. They're going to take the place of the nouns. They agree in gender and number. This is the exact same conversation without what word? Anillo, ring. So now we just have este, which means this one, which is still referring to a anillo. Oh, I know, it's so exciting, invigorating. So we've got este, ese, and aquel all with accents. So adjectives don't have accents, they have nouns with them. Pronouns don't have the nouns, they have the accents. Preguntas.
Questions? Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No.
let's practice then.
Like, you have the